2026 Finance and Operations Committee Board of Education meeting. We have lots of people here, the full committee and board members and guests. So we are going to call this meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. And I will conduct the roll call. Mr. Bresnahan. Here. Mrs. Arvanites. Here. Mrs. Oh my God, Slawinski. I can't see that far.
Here.
Mrs. Hostler.
Here.
And we have our community member, Ms. Letizia.
Here.
Thank you. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any? Great. Moving on to the approval of Finance and Operation Committee meetings from November 5th, 2025. Any changes to those minutes? No. Minutes will proceed as stand. Okay. Our very robust agenda. Let's do it. Let's get to it, Joe.
All right, I will try to be concise.
This is where the work gets done, committee meetings, so that our board meetings are efficient and effective. So I will turn it over to you at whatever pace you deem necessary.
Thank you. So our first agenda item is talking about the Campbell Gym scoreboard, and coupled with some conversation about a potential advertising agreement. Currently, our South Gym has a scoreboard that has had some malfunctions over the last couple of years and is in need of replacement. It has reached the end of its useful life. And as a way of being not only proactive about doing this in a timely manner, but also seeing an opportunity, we embarked on a process of looking at potentially bringing a video scoreboard to the gymnasium at York High School. We would not want to install that in the South Gym because the Campbell Gym offers the most visibility and the most use for a video scoreboard. So we embarked on a process of getting multiple quotes for this scoreboard, and the winning quote came from Digital Scoreboards, and I will say that if you do have questions about the scoreboard itself, we are actually joined by Joe Byers and Nate Rittenberry from Digital Scoreboards, who are in the audience. I've interacted with them and their founder a number of times. The districts I spoke to really praise their level of service to their district. When something is going wrong with their scoreboards, they are responding very quickly. Less than 24 hours is the standard, which is not an industry standard, but it is for digital scoreboards. So not only would we be obtaining a digital scoreboard, which we can then display more than just the score and who's in foul trouble and all of that, but also produce some screens to boost the crowd during the games, and as part of the next part of the discussion, raise some revenue for the district through an advertising option in the Campbell Gym. So the winning bid was $129,000. We received 3 quotes, and that was the lowest cost. We had 2 others that were just under $160,000. So this beat all of their competitors by almost $30,000. And so we're really proud to recommend them. We recommend bringing this to the full board for approval on March 24th. We've been talking a lot about timeline. We would like to move this along as quickly as possible so we can install it right after school lets out. So it will be installed before summer athletic camps. So we're not interfering with those summer athletic camps, and before we refinish the floors in both the South Gym and the Campbell Gym.
Great. I'll open it up to questions for anybody. So is that like an artistic rendering? Is that the placement of it?
So yes, actually, yes, thank you.
I'm trying to look.
That image is a public image of our gymnasium, and we've rendered, or Digital Scoreboards has rendered what that digital scoreboard looks like. This would be on the wall that as you're walking into the Campbell Gym, you'd be looking right at the digital scoreboard. So the far wall, and so you get that instant appeal, and it reduces the need to have, you can see that white screen that is the actual part of the picture. We've been using a makeshift screen that our technology team puts together whenever we're in need of a screen. Well, now that can be replaced by this digital scoreboard, so we can display those images right up onto the scoreboard.
And you can answer, or our guests can answer. What kind of format? Like, can you decide the format? Because I'm looking at this picture, it's a lovely video and a score, but like, I know the current scoreboard has the players, the points, the time they've played, the fouls, I don't know, their stats. So, thank you so much for being here, appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having us. So as part of the proposal package that was put together for you guys on the video board, there is a software component to that. Within that software component of ScoreVision software is the provider of that. There are many different templates or profiles that you can choose or operate in and out of. And so as you progress through the game operations, you can change those formats depending on what you want up there, cycle through any advertising, any video highlights that you want to do, and then also your just standard templates for gameplay that you would typically see on a typical scoreboard, meaning points, fouls, possession arrows, things of that nature. So yes, there are different templates that you can cycle through.
And do you guys provide the training to us to operate it?
We do.
Okay. And I'm guessing that would be the same people operating the scoreboard now?
That would be correct. The primary people who operate would be the ones that are trained by digital scoreboards.
Awesome. Beth?
So you're talking about being able to do some advertising possibly on the scoreboard. Is that something that we're hoping, like, once we establish a model of doing that might be able to be replicated on the outdoor scoreboard as well?
Well, and
Great feed. That was
yes,
like a great,
it's
great talk.
almost like
Look at
yes.
that next slide, Beth.
Yes. So, yes, let's just jump right into advertising. Advertising, and by the way, this other rendering that you see here, in addition to that full-size scoreboard that you would see on the far wall, on the wall closest to the entrance, instead of having a standard scoreboard, we would have a banner scoreboard, which you can see right behind the basketball hoop. That would still have all the scores, all of that information, and it's a much more wide footprint so that it's visible to everyone in the bleachers. But the advertising agreement, we've been fortunate to be engaging with our York Athletic Boosters organization, and they've expressed an interest in partnering with us in securing advertisers, both for the Campbell Gym scoreboard once we have a video scoreboard there, as well as the stadium scoreboard outdoors. We would still maintain the stipulations that the city has outlined for the outdoor scoreboard, but we do have the ability to produce static advertising on the outdoor scoreboard. What's great about partnering with the York Athletic Boosters in this is they're willing to put in the man hours to secure the advertising, and we would work out a revenue sharing agreement so that part of the revenue comes to us and part of the revenue comes to them. Really, that means 100% of the revenue is going back to our students. So really, it's a win-win for everyone in that arrangement. We are currently working on finalizing what that agreement looks like. I can't promise it'll be done by March 24th, but as soon as we have it, we're looking at this scoreboard won't be in place until this summer, and obviously the outdoor scoreboard, we wouldn't be doing any advertising probably until August anyway. So we are certainly hopeful that we will have an agreement in place to begin that advertising work. When I've asked other school districts what they've brought in, I don't want to give any hard numbers because they have been very widely reported, but we're talking at least five figures. In some cases, there's been six figures of revenue stream coming in from advertising
Per year?
per year.
In theory, we could have spring advertising outside for soccer and lacrosse. So if this agreement does move forward sooner rather than later, which I'm hopeful and optimistic for, I mean, that outdoor scoreboard is available for lots of sporting events out there in the very cold, lovely spring weather.
Great point.
I just have a little, just kind of go backwards a little bit. Joe, it was maybe before your time here. So when we installed the scoreboard outside in the stadium at the time, there was a commitment made to the district that when we were kind of thinking about advertising and what that could look like, that some of that money that we would get in revenue would actually come back to pay for part of that scoreboard that was installed. And so I'm hoping that that's a part of your agreement with the boosters, because that commitment has yet to be satisfied.
Yeah, so the way that we view this is by doing a revenue sharing, that at least on an ongoing basis, the amount that we would bring in on the district portion would be not only for the maintenance, but for the accrual, so that we can regularly replace capital items that are needed through athletics. I know I don't have the full context, but the outdoor scoreboard was paid for entirely out of district funds, I believe.
It
And
was.
we engaged in a conversation about cost sharing for the indoor scoreboard, and we determined that we would take on the cost of this scoreboard, so that it wasn't an issue of what portion of this is to pay back the scoreboard, and it's more so you're helping us bring in revenue for the district, as well as bringing in revenue for the boosters that can support both ongoing capital needs in the future, as well as current needs. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was more just a reminder that, and this is for the external scoreboard, that when that decision was made by the board, there was a commitment to acknowledging that revenue from the advertising or marketing on that plan was going to reimburse the district for that scoreboard. So that was the commitment. That was my understanding for board members who were here when we approved that, the first scoreboard in the stadium. That's all I wanted to acknowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Sure. And did you say close to five figures per year per scoreboard, or is that total between the two?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to be
Easy, buddy.
very non-committal, because, especially, we, in this advertising agreement, we talk through how it's reported, who receives it. Obviously, all advertising is approved by the board. We have to make sure that it follows board policy in terms of being reviewed and approved. And as part of that, we have not even talked about the cost and how many events, and so really I'm confident that we can raise five figures per year, but I can't give it a more definitive answer than that.
And then my concern sometimes with partnering with the athletic boosters, sorry, is that money goes to the students that play athletics, but we have a lot more students that don't, and so are we also looking for ways to support students in other activities with this funding as well?
With the revenue?
Any revenue brought in,
sharing?
yes.
Absolutely, and I will highlight that one of the conversation pieces that we had with digital scoreboards is it opens up, digital scoreboards open up opportunities for enhancing. As you can see from the previous screen, this is an all school event. It looks like a tug of war down below. And so opportunities to engage with all students with the digital scoreboard, but in terms of the revenue sharing, we really feel like if the revenue is being received because of our athletic events, if they're paying for advertising during athletic events, they wouldn't be paying for advertising during PE class. So, that's an important consideration in saying what are we going to allocate those revenues towards.
But I think part of it is that the money that goes into the scoreboard is not raised specifically from athletic events. So that money is raised from the community and taxpayers, many of who are not participants in athletic events. So I'm just want to be cognizant of that, those group of students as well.
Fair point. I appreciate that.
And then is this so you're going to take the scoreboard from the Campbell Gym and move it into the South Gym?
That is correct.
That's
The
the plan.
two boards that are currently in the Campbell Gym would be relocated to the South Gym. Digital scoreboards would take them down and put them up in the other gym, and then those scoreboards, both of which are past their useful life and one is actively malfunctioning, those would be scrapped by digital scoreboards.
So if we're moving two scoreboards, do we have a second one for the Campbell Gym?
Yeah, and that's where that banner scoreboard comes into play. So this is the opposite side of the gym. Rather than having a scoreboard of a similar size, this is kind of the trend that we're starting to see in many gyms, where on one side is the large scoreboard and on the other side is just something to keep you informed about the score.
Thank you.
I just wanted to go back, Mr. Bresnahan, the point that you made. I think that, we are so fortunate in Elmhurst to have such engaged parent groups. We mentioned this particular partnership with the athletic boosters, but we also have a very, very active music boosters. We have other parent organizations that support. And so I think us venturing into this space as to, first of all, understanding what and how much revenue will be generated, I think will be an ongoing conversation with the board. And by all means, if there's direction that is given to administration to allocate those funds appropriately in our planning, we talked about those funds continuing to support. We have a constantly growing engagement with our athletic program and other programs. And really, I will bring up, our flag girls football is an example, is a perfect example, with us allocating, for one team, and then the response we've gotten could potentially warrant, adding on. And so I think with us really thinking about the ways in which these additional revenues will support, I think our initial planning was thinking about that within the space in which these funds were being generated, and that being at athletic events. But I do think that as we venture into this particular sphere of revenue generation, that we would definitely bring that back to this committee, and obviously through the direction of the board, we can always come back and talk about how the funds, as Athena mentioned before, with the outdoor scoreboard, it has always been our hope that would create an opportunity for advertisement. There were many, not to rehash history, but there were many obstacles and barriers that we needed to work through, and I'm really appreciative of Mr. Blomquist, as well as our boosters that have come back to the table and really been very thoughtful about how do we create an opportunity for this to add revenue, but then also for there to be moments for us to begin to, kind of recoup some of the funds, because it was a really, really, great investment, and one that I think was well spent. And we appreciate the board for allowing us to purchase that, and as well as within the indoor scoreboard and the partnership that we will have with you all moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Appreciate you
Thank
guys.
you for having us.
I have one more question too. Sorry. Sorry about that. How close are we for getting the football field scoreboard operational for taking in advertisements?
Yes, the football scoreboard or the stadium scoreboard is ready to go. We just needed an avenue to which to secure the advertising. And I just want to emphasize the man hours it takes to secure advertising. And this partnership is great because we do not have to commit our human resources to securing advertising. And so that's why we're appreciative of this partnership. But yes, as soon as we've secured advertisers, the scoreboard is fully capable of running those advertisements within the confines that have been set forth by city ordinance. And that would be static advertising at this point.
Can I just add one thing? So I think it's just one of those really unique moments of Elmhurst to see the collaboration and partnership with community members and community bodies. Like the booster in our community, the Athletic Booster Club they're the relationship builders in our community. They do such a fine job. If you were at Green Scene a couple weeks ago to see how their relationships actually come in and have a positive impact for our athletic programs, and really the school as a whole, the district as a whole. And so that partnership with them, being the right people who volunteer their hours to take on this work is really valuable, and I think it's such a unique aspect of it just speaks to Elmhurst and who we are as a community and those collaborative partnerships that we have and sustain through time. Am I correct in thinking that, I mean, a real kind of viable timeline would be, this fall, everything's installed, when I'm talking about both scoreboards, all the digital access we have, and that, our booster club will need that kind of time, of course, after we hopefully approve a proposal for some of the semantics, but that this fall would be kind of a kickoff for the scoreboards and advertising. Is that fair?
I think that's probably a fair assumption because you're right. It does take a little bit of time. They have secured some advertisers that happen on kind of vinyl
Flag boards.
The
flag boards,
boards,
yes.
yeah.
And they can reach out to them, but at the same time, we also need to make sure our processes are well in place for how is this reviewed and approved? Do you want to review every single piece before it goes on a scoreboard, or do you delegate that authority to one of your administrative representatives? And all of those details have to be worked out. I think it's fair to assume that fall is a reasonable target.
One last thing, we may also have to look at our board policy and see if we have to update it, since this is a little bit of a new venture for us when it comes to partnering with advertisers, right?
Correct. We have reviewed the board policy a little bit, but we can look at it a little bit deeper as we get closer to an agreement.
Beth?
Thank you.
Just one other thing, I know you guys will incorporate this into your planning and your teamwork with the athletic boosters, but just to Brian's point, to make sure that the funds that come in are used in a, equitable way, even for the kids that are involved in athletics, that it'll be used across the board or evaluated where the funds are needed most, so that all sports will be, benefiting from that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All righty.
I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, and if I am, I apologize. One of the things I did want to highlight with the accessibility of the scoreboard is that we have often seen with especially progressive and forward-thinking school districts, that the ability to open up the scoreboard to the creative community within your student bodies too affords a lot of opportunities for kids in video production, in game planning. We've actually seen in several schools that we've done video boards on that kids have been able to get college scholarships based upon the skills and the learnings and the content libraries that they've been able to create as part of this. So it's just another opportunity within your student bodies to open it up. It's not just an athletic technology, it's really available if you guys are willing and open to do that to the whole student body in giving them opportunities to gain life skills and do some creative and really impactful things. So I wouldn't think about it just as like an athletic, and obviously it's primarily seen that way, and I understand why, but it does offer some other opportunities within the student body for some creative outlets.
Yeah, it's such a great point. We have such a robust YTV and York Sports Network with all the broadcasting and the stuff that they do at the schools. And I think it does open up such a way, another opportunity for them to expand on the amazing work that they're doing over there. So it's a great point. Thank you. Not overstepping at all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to, this is my jam, electricity reverse auction.
And we're going to
Becky's
have.
back.
We're going to have another special guest with us for this one. So we have a couple of items that we want to share, not just about our an upcoming electricity reverse auction, but we also have some other updates on opportunities that we're not exploring right now, but we just wanted to introduce the concept so that when you start hearing about it in future years, that it's not a foreign concept to you. So at this time, I will turn it over to Becky.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate being back here to see you all. So I'm Becky Thompson with Nania Energy. We are the district's energy consultant, which is a fancy way of saying we help you control your energy costs the best we can, because as we're all paying our NICOR and ComEd bills, we know that this is more necessary than ever. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the current world of energy. It's very exciting. Every day is a new day. We're going to spend briefly a little bit of time talking about the industry and what's changing. And when we think about energy buying, specifically for a school district, we need to look at it through the lens of risk management. More than just trying to beat the market and have the lowest price at all time. That's always part of the goal, but this is really about insulating yourselves from risk and uncertainty for one of your largest operating expenses. So if we want to move to the next, a little bit about us. Just as a reminder, we're a third-party consultant sitting on your side of the table, helping guide through the process, being the eyes and ears of the marketplace so that Joe doesn't have to watch the natural gas market every single day. And so we're just really the liaison for the school district, identifying opportunities, and in this current market, the threats that are out there, helping drive the competitive RFP process, securing the best rates possible, and then really being that continuous asset throughout the contract for all things energy, as Joe expressed, covering some of those other topics outside of just electricity. So what is going on? So basically, if you think of Economics 101, supply and demand, where we are at right now for both natural gas and electricity is we are in a period of time that is adjusting how we consume energy in unprecedented ways since like the Industrial Revolution. With AI and infrastructure and these data centers coming online, electric vehicles, automation of manufacturing, our needs for electricity are expounding at levels we've never before seen. So you can see here an increase of 25% nationwide by 2030, which is only 4 years away, 75 to 80% by 2050. And why this is problematic is how many coal plants are being built currently? How many nuclear generation plants? We do have some solar and renewables, but it takes a lot of solar panels to really make up that difference. And so what we're seeing is demand is drastically outpacing available supply. So getting back to Econ 101, what happens when demand outpaces supply? Energy prices go up. And so we've all been experiencing that. I think if any of you can think of your bills from ComEd last summer and you're like, eesh, that is nationwide. That's not unique to ComEd, Illinois, or even your school district. This is a current, when we hear on the news an energy crisis, this really is where we're at today. As a sidestep to that, natural gas prices are really closely correlated to electricity because we use natural gas to make electricity. And so whenever something happens in the natural gas world, we see that reflected in electricity. So when I was last here speaking with you, we were talking about natural gas, and I think I have a slide later, but I'll just call it out now. The district moved forward with fixing natural gas prior to the winter, which in hindsight was one of the best cost avoidance moves that the district could have taken. Because you locked in approximately, sorry, Joe, you're keeping up, you're doing great. It just made sense with the flow. About 43 cents a therm. So a therm is a unit of natural gas of energy. Spot market prices during that cold bout the last week of January rose to over $2 a therm. So for districts who did not have a fixed price in place, when they receive their pricing or their bills for February coming in, they're going to have a lot of sticker shock, and they may have their entire year's budget just in that one invoice alone. So when I talk about volatility, I mean the uncertainty of very sporadic, sharp points of increases and decreases. And so that's what the whole crux of why we're here and why we do what we do, is to offer that fixed security to eliminate yourselves from, or insulate yourselves from that risk in the marketplace. So last time I was here, we were talking about natural gas, and so I wanted to give you a pat on the back that this was an outstanding contract for long term. And this is especially relevant right now, because with the new developments over the weekend, natural gas is forefront and center in the news currently. If you've heard the terminology LNG, and like, what does that mean? It stands for liquefied natural gas. And in the Middle East, there was a large exporting of liquefied natural gas to Europe and China and other countries, and that is currently halted. And where that affects the United States is that Europe still needs natural gas. It's still cold outside. So where are they going to buy it from? The United States. We saw this happen back when the Russian-Ukrainian conflict first started. Russia was sanctioned. People were no longer buying natural gas from them. The United States, within a month period, became the world's largest global exporter of natural gas. Think back to supply and demand. If our demand goes up and our supply remains the same or goes down, we see that reflected in our pricing. So this week has already been a wild adventure, a bit of a roller coaster with natural gas prices. And what we are doing here tonight to talk about this is, if we go back, Joe, sorry. Remember when I said that natural gas is correlated to electricity pricing? Your electricity contract is up in December of this year. And waiting until then to see how some of these conflicts and other things come to fruition may cause additional cost increases versus taking action now. So you do not have to wait until your contract expires in order to buy into the futures market. When we buy energy, we're buying today what we'll use in the future, but we can actually secure pricing now for when your current contract expires in December. So you can purchase as early as you would like to, which is why we're here today to have that conversation, especially in light of everything that we're seeing take place. This graph here explains a little bit of why our ComEd bills went up so drastically last year. It's a pretty dense topic, so I'll try to keep it 10,000-foot view as much as I can, but it is a really important piece to call out, that if you think of our energy cost as a pie chart, about half of what we pay is the energy commodity itself. That's what's traded on the futures market, like corn or soybeans. So when you fix a contract, that piece doesn't change. We bought that supply on the day you signed the contract. It has no variability. That other 50% are some of what we call grid cost, and that is what the grid operator is above ComEd. It's what their costs are to deliver that electricity to you, to maintain the grid, to make sure that we don't have blackouts, that when we are all cranking our air conditioning on the hottest day of the year, that we're not being told mandated brownouts and rolling blackouts. The costs for those, because of everything I've already described, though, have gone up exponentially. One specific piece that I'm going to focus on is called capacity, and that is that grid reliability piece. It went up 800%, not a typo, 800% June 1 of last year, which is why when we got our July bills, we all went, I'm sorry, what? Is that accurate? It was. Unfortunately, the orange piece you see here is June 1 of this year, and that cost went up another 20%. It's expected to maintain that same level for next year in June and the years after that. And so this was a pretty critical piece of your electricity cost. You actually have a fixed price contract in place, but because this was such an egregious change, and it was a change in how this cost was structured and calculated, all energy suppliers in the marketplace passed through a cost increase. So every single school district that I work with, even if they had a fixed price in place, the true fixed price no longer exists. With this type of volatility, unpredictability, suppliers are not able to guesstimate what they think that cost will be over a term of into the future, and they are passing through what those costs are. So that's to set the scene for the next slide. So I've already called this out a little bit, but with that capacity cost adjustment, what you've paid over the last 12 months is about 7 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, a kilowatt hour is the unit of energy for electricity that we measure. We go to the next slide. So looking at procurement and how to address some of the needs going forward, you may remember when I was here talking about natural gas, we actually did a little preface of this and talked about how for electricity, it is a commodity at the end of the day. Assuming that all the T's and C's for all the competitors are the same, nobody's electricity is better than someone else's electricity. It's juice that flows through the grid. And so we find the reverse auction procurement methodology to be really effective because rather than just having everyone blindly bid and submit one bid on a Tuesday at 10 a.m., putting them into a spreadsheet, evaluating them, we do that part of the process to pre-qualify, but then we invite everyone who was qualified into a live event where they can bid against each other and submit multiple bids over the course of a live auction. They usually run 15 to 30 minutes, but rather than getting maybe 40 bids if you had 10 suppliers each submitting four quotes, we had, in one that I just did a week and a half ago, 337 bids were received over 27 minutes. So each supplier who participates has insights into what the price is that they need to beat. They can submit as many bids as they want. And any time that once the clock starts going down, once we get within the 2-minute marker, any new bid that is received resets the clock to 2 minutes. I personally love this function because if you've ever bought anything on eBay and someone's stolen something from you in the last 10 seconds, this completely eliminates that. Someone who submits something in the last 10 seconds, now everyone has 2 minutes to try to resubmit another bid. So this works really well. Suppliers have a love-hate relationship with it because it strips out a lot of their margin and their cushion. They have complete visibility into the costs and how they need to retain your business. So this eliminates any of those calls after we've awarded a bid that are, hey, where should I have been? I could have sharpened my pencil. For me, that would always break my heart, especially for school districts, to know that we basically left money on the table, that suppliers could have sharpen their numbers given the opportunity. And so that's what this really helps accomplish. So that's our recommendation for doing the electricity, especially with it being one of your larger spends, you're a larger district. You could see a lot of competition from this, and it can be a really effective procurement mechanism. So what does this look like? So like I mentioned with that pre-qualifying round, in order to participate, you have to be able to show that you have met all of the terms of our RFP, the parameters, extended payment terms, all of that good stuff, so that we can vet your pricing, and then you get an invitation to a live event. I'm going to explain a couple of things on this slide, just so you have clarity into how it all works. But as I mentioned before, your current rate is about 7 cents all in, including all of those costs, even that pesky capacity and transmission piece that we mentioned. If we were to include those costs in your forward quotes, you can see a range there on the third bullet point of 7.7 cents to 8.2 cents. Those are your estimated costs, forward costs, including costs for capacity and transmission. But as I mentioned previously, no supplier is actually honoring a true fixed cost for those components throughout the course of a contract. So there's really not a need for paying a premium to a supplier to fix those costs if they reserve the right to change them or adjust them over the term of the contract. So the first line you see here of the low bid qualifying results is the cost for energy and several other small, minute little charges, but that excludes the cost for capacity and transmission. All that means is that they will not be included as part of your fixed price contract. You would still be paying for them on your monthly invoice, but they would be a real-time cost without markup, without margin, without any premium associated with them. And so then it's straightforward, just a real-time cost. But I wanted to create a comparison for you so that you understand from a budgetary perspective what you have versus where the market is today. So the bottom two lines are compared against your all-in rate with those cost estimations, including capacity and transmission. So it's a true apples-to-apples comparison for the bottom two lines. The top two lines are what we would expect to see through the live reverse auction, excluding those capacity and transmission costs. That would be the rate that you would see on the contract. The bottom number is what the realized impact to your total operating budget would be, including everything. So as you can see, it is quite a jump with 11 to 17% estimations as of right now. And I hope I did that justice because I know I am really jargony and that I'm an energy nerd, so I know that I go really overboard with these things. But what we would be asking for approval is what's highlighted in the orange. This is the low bid from the qualifying round of pricing with a 10% market contingency because energy prices change just like gas prices. They're held for about a day, and by 3:30 p.m., the market closes and they are no longer able to be held. So this does allow for some market fluidity between now and when you would run an auction. Whew. Should I take a breath there and see if there's any questions?
Well, let me let you take a breath and just make sure that I'm clear in the timeline. This is an example of qualifying results that that Becky ran about a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And so they fluctuate, and that is why it is essential. And because a reverse auction, the auction is conducted, and you have till the end of the business day to accept the results. So we would not have the ability to have the reverse auction and have the board vote on it with the 48-hour posting. It would have to follow the Open Meetings Act. So what is traditionally done as part of this is that the board would approve the threshold, and that's that orange row right there. That threshold, we would assume, we would make the threshold about 10% higher than those qualifying results, giving us some buffer that if the rates do fluctuate a little bit, that we can still secure that price without saying, oh, wait, we have to wait till the next board meeting and approve a whole new threshold, and then we have to hold another reverse auction, and so on. So essentially, what you would be approving through board action is for district administration to accept on your behalf up to that threshold.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for explaining that. And it's worth noting that the auction is not obligatory. If we run the auction, we don't like the rates, it's a bad day, what have you, you're not obligated to take any of the responses. However, if you do like one of them, you have to sign by the close of business. Because the methodology extrapolates any cushion, any buffer for the suppliers, they cannot hold that for an elongated period of time. And we're seeing that actually even outside of the auction procurement methodology, we're seeing that across the board just with the volatility in the market.
So Joe, do we also have to tell you what term? I mean, how many years? There's 5 different term options here.
So the reason why we have all 5 terms is because, and I have been part of a reverse auction, and I've seen it for myself, sometimes a 4-year term is actually a better deal than the 3-year term. So by approving all the thresholds, then we can make that assessment at the end of that auction to say, yeah, we don't like the results, we're willing to just do it for a year because we think we'll get better results in a year, or wow, the rates for a 5-year yield a lot more promise than we were even expecting. So
that's a spur-of-the-moment decision for you at the auction point.
correct, if you approve all 5 thresholds,
Got
yes.
it, got it.
Yeah, so typically the language is for a term not to exceed 60 months in this case.
Got it.
And then gives them the authority, unless that the board has a specific directive otherwise that we would abide by. But the auction itself, within the same single event, all 5 terms will run simultaneously within the same event. So it's a side-by-side comparison.
And so, Becky, I'll just ask the question, like you mentioned the weekend and the volatility. I mean, when does something like what's going on in the world, typically do you see the impact in electricity costs? Like, so, has it jumped since the weekend? Or do you see a trend where it will jump in the next 2 weeks or the next month?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to see how quickly we have to act
Yeah.
and whether waiting for our March board meeting at the end of the month will kind of push us out of a window where we have these ideal conditions to be a part of an auction.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you for bringing it up. You're actually the 3rd district that I've spoken with in similar circumstances today, and some of those districts have opted to call a special board meeting to run their auctions as early as Monday or Tuesday of next week. We have seen an impact in pricing this week already, but it's been relatively minute compared to what we had seen in similar instances. Go back to the Russian-Ukrainian conflict a few years ago. It took about 2 or 3 weeks before the world caught up with what was happening. And by that time, then new trade deals are being struck with changing how natural gas was traded globally. Following that, about a month after that conflict began, we saw prices double, 100% increases. NICOR's default rate was about $1.25 a therm. You have 40 cents, to just put things in perspective. It took about 8 months before things started to slow back down. So where we're at today, I'm actually quite shocked that it didn't have a more immediate aggressive effect. But I think that is because people are still figuring out what's going on and how long will this conflict last. The bigger piece of this specific conflict is infrastructure damage that comes as a result of it. So whether it's 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years, any critical liquefied natural gas infrastructure that is damaged could impact globally how all of our energy is traded, and how long that will last will depend upon how quickly that equipment and infrastructure can be repaired. So it is very fresh into this that we don't really know a lot. But to your point, right now things are better than I expected. And if I were in your position, I would be seriously considering maybe taking action sooner than later, to try and get in front of any consequences that may come as a result of the
Because
current
when you talk
circumstances.
about the full effect in 6 to 8 months, then we are another year with the current contract that we're in, right? Because then we would still be in our contract, then we would be obliged, even though we're buying futures, until December of 2027.
So possibly.
Okay.
The other option would be to continue with just whatever the variable rate is until we want to lock in, which would not be a good idea, as we've seen with,
just gonna say,
with
I don't
natural
like
gas
that idea.
costs spiking. Yes.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I mean, the developments over the weekend is one piece of it, but the other piece that is happening regardless is the AI, and the need for higher electricity demand. If we have a hot summer on top of that, those are things that are going to impact you locally regardless of how this conflict continues. And with your expiration in December, really the question is, between now and 9 months from now, do we think that things will improve? Or are we really in a situation where now is maybe the best that we can have? And then when it comes to that, you have the timing of when you go to market, but then the term discussion, like you just brought up, that can be part of that discussion at that time. Maybe it's a short term because things go haywire, it's just a Band-Aid for a year and then reevaluate, or maybe it's a longer term commitment at that time because we feel that things have escalated to a point of needing the longer term protection.
All right, let's throw it out for questions
Yeah.
before we
Yeah.
make any more decisions, Athena.
So, make any more decisions.
Well, I mean, decide how to proceed.
Yes, I
That's what
got you.
mean,
I
like-
got you, no worries. So, I am in this moment where, we're a district who has experienced double-digit increases in a lot of expenditures, especially over the last 3 years, like kind of across the board. So I really appreciate this ability to forecast, but not in a perfect way, right? There's just a lot of vulnerabilities out there. What we know for certain is, like you said, the electricity banks that are being built everywhere for AI and all these other things, right? We know that we can anticipate with no action in a very short amount of time, around a 25% estimated increase in this expense. And it sounds as if the uncertainty of the market, leads us to a prevention role, if I can call it that, and that the board has the opportunity to make a decision to mitigate some of the escalating costs by taking action sooner rather than later. Because if we believe, I would say, or if I believe, if I spoke for myself, that the market is in fact going to go up, the price is in fact going to go up, that's what I mean, in this commodity. So it makes sense to me that we probably would need to move more swiftly than waiting to see how the market moves. I think we know how the market is probably going to move, not just with what's happening in international affairs right now, but what's happening in our own backyards without that pressure point, which just kind of exasperates things a little bit more. So I'm open to moving more swiftly. I think it makes sense if we're going to protect our bottom line, just knowing that we've seen double-digit increases in the way that we have and its impact on the budget, and then what that takes away from the classroom when we have to put our money in things like utilities and bricks and mortar and, instead of into teachers, students,
Well,
supplies,
I
and
also look at it
classrooms.
as that it's not going to get better,
Right.
right? But there is this opportunity for it to get worse. And so if we could move a little quicker to solidify where we're at now, so it's not worse in 3 weeks, it's certainly something I think we should be open to discussing. Anybody? Nikki?
I was just going to say, I mean, I agree, because I think we've got the safeguard, too, that we can put those thresholds in place, and if for some reason it changes quicker than that, we can always pause if it goes above the threshold. So it feels like there's an upside, but maybe not necessarily a downside at this moment, to put those thresholds in place and move faster.
Okay. So.
I think,
So then,
if I can
Joe,
just
yeah.
add, I think you put that very eloquently. I think there's a lot of risk for waiting, and there's very little risk in moving more expeditiously.
Okay, so then we can get with Joe and Dr. Campbell and figure out the timing of a special board meeting. Maybe Monday, we'll just kind of throw that out there and see what we can do.
Yeah, we
Um,
can earmark it, and then, but
let's-
we have to ask board members,
Yep,
and not all
we
of
have
us
to
are
see
here,
our
so. TBD.
Availability, but to get that posted in the 48 hours ahead of time.
Sure.
Okay.
Can I also, I want to make sure, Becky, feasibility about timing, if we were to have a special board meeting early next week, feasibility of running a reverse auction and how quickly we could get that done
Yeah,
after
absolutely.
approving the threshold.
At the sound of sounding presumptuous, but wanting to be informed, I did check ahead of time, and so we could run an auction on Wednesday if a board meeting did occur before then granting the approval. So Wednesday morning of next week, which I believe is March 11th.
Yep.
Which would bump up versus waiting for the board meeting by about 2.5 weeks.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions or discussion?
And I do want to highlight that it is a very fun process for anybody who wants to see
Going to update
auctions
my
taking
calendar.
place.
I had
Sure, I've got
25th
something going
down.
on.
It is pretty cool. And so it's a live event, so it's a
We're gonna do it in
website, and
Keisha's
so we can share the
boardroom.
link.
We might do it up here.
Oh, absolutely. Let's get some popcorn. Let's make it a party.
Oh, that's right. If only we had the
Do it.
scoreboard up.
Absolutely. It is pretty fun. I mean, when it comes to energy buying, it can be kind of drab, and so it lightens it up a little bit. But it also, the link stays live for a year after it happens. So if you're not able to watch it live, you can always go back to see it and see how the little dots kind of pop up, which is pretty cool.
Oh, no, I'm going to be
Pretty
here
cool.
live. Oh, my God. I mean, wouldn't it be fun if like our economics classes at York could be there to watch that? That would be so fun.
Pretty cool.
We could have a
Because
field
I
trip
jumped
to
out of
Dr.
order, I did not talk about community solar. Did you want to touch on that
Oh, yeah.
at this
Yes.
time? I
Any
know you have a
exciting
full
things
agenda,
that we
so if
might
we
be
want to
talking
do this
about?
another day. I'm very briefly,
Can I have it on
if-
this?
my slides look kind of funky. I apologize for that. They didn't look like that when I sent them. The community solar is something that I think that we'll be back to talk to you about in the future. This is not something that would require any capital expenditure, on-site infrastructure, anything touching your buildings, your rooftops, anything. Would be participating in an off-site, large-scale solar project that generates credits on your utility bills. So while we've shared not great news about increases, this would be a savings measure that's expected to save the district about $50,000 if you were to participate without any out-of-pocket risk or anything along those lines. So more to come on that in the future. That's just a little teaser. But it was worth mentioning that we are evaluating many options for that energy supply cost management. Okay? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Becky. Appreciate you as always. All right. Are we staying on script? Okay. All right, moving on to the SRO updated contract. Who's going to do that?
Yeah,
Tanya.
so I'm going to start us off, and then I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Ms. Daniels. As we've actually started this conversation and has already been mentioned in the room, that we're very fortunate about the various partnerships that we have to support the work that we do here in D205. I also want to just elevate that one of those partnerships that we glean so much from and that we continue to really appreciate and echo is that partnership with our Elmhurst Police Department. Part of that partnership, we have had the opportunity to have actual school resource officers, 2 school resource officers that serve our school and work specifically they have an office out at York High School, but they work across all of our schools. And so we shared at our last policy meeting that there were some legislation that had been updated in really specifically identifying some of the requirements within that partnership between, police municipalities as well as school districts. And so during our policy meeting, we kind of talked about that. That also created an opportunity for us to revisit our partnership and our shared agreement and contract with our SROs and with the Elmhurst Police Department. And so we're here today to kind of share with the board that update as it relates to this partnership with EPD, with our hopes of us then bringing that full contract for board approval at our March 24th board meeting. Ms. Daniels?
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. So as Dr. Campbell mentioned, with the new state and federal laws that went into place, there was some requirements for updating the contract that we have with the police department and our SROs. And with the updated legislation in conversations with the city and the district, that also led to kind of renegotiating the contract in general and looking at the terms of the contract in general, including the financial terms. So the contract, the points that we wanted to talk about today at finance were specific to the financial terms because they are changing fairly, I can't see with them, I can't see without them. So the original contract started in 2013, and the agreement at that time was 37.5% is the amount that the district would pay for the school resource officer's salary. The new contract and the draft proposal would state that we would be responsible for 75% now of the SRO's annual compensation package, including base salary and employer benefit contributions such as health insurance, Medicare, and pension. Shifting the cost model from a partial salary reimbursement to a defined percentage of both salary and benefits, representing a significant increase in the district's financial contribution. So we just wanted to share that here at the Finance Committee for full awareness and discussion.
Thank you. Questions or discussion, anybody? I think there's nobody here that ever questions or does not value the relationship between the police department and our school district. They're invaluable, and the relationship is such a positive one and a collaborative one. It certainly is something that makes me proud of the work that we do together. The fact that we haven't negotiated this contract since 2013 makes me seem like we got a pretty good deal going for the last 12 years, 13 years. So, Joe, anything?
No, just that through these ongoing discussions, we are fully prepared to implement it into our FY27 budget.
Great.
And we've looked at neighboring school districts and their relationships with their SROs, what they are paying, and this seems to be in the ballpark of our comparables.
We have, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, I'm right there with Courtney. I mean, no question on whether or not we should have SROs. I actually feel like for a large district, 3 is a small number. Two. 2 is a small, even smaller number. And I like to hear and understand that they go out to our other schools. We're a large high school, and the high school typically has a lot of demands when it comes
Well,
to.
and truthfully, It's, if I understand it correctly, it's just one officer at the high school.
Yeah.
And then the other officer handles the middle schools and
share.
the elementary, like,
Right.
I mean, they're there for each other to support each other, but, so it's even a bigger task when you
Right.
have one SRO for our large high school.
For our large
Yeah.
high school, right? So for me, it's not necessarily about whether or not they should be there. It's, and I value the partnership, and I feel like we've been getting quite a deal for the last 13 years. And so if we're in the market pool of what our neighboring districts or comparable districts pay for this service, then, I could support it.
And we did do research, and obviously there's some, depending on the amount of students, or there's some variables that are different, but for the most part, we are right along there with our comparable districts.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Tanya.
Sure.
All right, moving on to the copier RFP results. I mean, no,
So many
this is-
dazzling things on the agenda today.
There.
I'm afraid to say that I like this stuff.
The
Because you'll
copiers
make
are
fun of me.
important. Copiers are very important.
Come on, ask a teacher.
I enjoyed the addition of the color. Can't wait to hear about it. The big, the picture that was in the, yes, I'll let you
So
get
I
to
was
it.
going
Rudy,
to say
go
we have
ahead.
the fun time of talking about a glamorous topic, copiers. Back in mid-December, the district issued a RFP for copiers and managed print services. And I just want the committee to understand this wasn't just about securing the best possible price for the hardware, right? That's one big component. But the RFP also had some requirements. And that was for the vendors that came out and walked our school to give us a comprehensive analysis of all of our copiers in our district. And then we also provided them with 2 full years of our print usage and data. And so they were to develop a 6 and 7 year comprehensive replacement plan. And that would also include like right sizing the different machines that we have in our schools. For example, if we currently had a 75 page per minute, does it still make sense to have a 75 page per minute? Could we drop it down to a 55 or a 65? Because there are differences in pricing from going from one model to the next. And the other part of it was to provide different pricing models, such as are each copier on a fixed monthly fee, or are we on a pay per click, like pay per each copy that's being made? So it's a little bit very comprehensive. We had 5 vendors that submitted proposals. In total, there were 6 proposals. 1 vendor submitted an alternate, and we'll review those results in a second. But I just want to go over like what our current reality is. Our realities are. So we do have a large fleet. We have 83 Konica multi-function printers spread throughout our campuses, and then 4 large production presses, which are at York's Print Center. So on average, we spend around $205,000 annually on fleet replacements. That means replacing about a fifth of the fleet, which is 15 to 17 copiers per year, and that are currently paid for over a 4-year lease. All of our fleet right now is currently on a fixed monthly fee that provides copying, printing, all the consumables, service, and support. And that's a different cost, at an annual cost of $152,000 that we spend annually on those duplicating costs. So if you add up the yearly investment, you're at around $357,000 in yearly copying and hardware acquisition costs. So part of the RFP, there was an evaluation committee, and up on this chart lists the 6 different, the 5 vendors and then the one that submitted the alternate. And we had a committee that evaluated each proposal, and they were scored on points. For example, the first one was on pricing, and then also the managed print services. So those are really, you give the points based on who had the lowest and so forth. The next 3 items was the service response history, quality of proposed equipment, and prior experiences and references. And those had individual rubrics. And for example, so if you scored high in those areas, you met the criteria, you would get a 4. If you didn't include everything that was asked for, you maybe got a 3 or a 2 and so forth. So when we compiled all of the scores, I know the scores are very tiny to see. Konica and Marco came in very, very close, with Konica, our current provider, scoring slightly higher than the others. So Konica submitted a 6-year proposal with a total cost of $515,000 annually over a period of 6 years, which is, if you remember, I was saying we were spending $205,000 on hardware acquisition costs. That brings it down to $120,000 annually in savings. And that $86,000 is going to be it's going to remain consistent, so it's flexible. We already know for our budget for the next 6 years, we're going to roughly spend around $86,000 in hardware acquisition costs. And so with this proposal, 1/6 of our fleet will be replaced annually. And when they submitted their proposals, they already said, year one, we're going to replace these copiers. So the replacement schedule is already built out for the next 6 years, which is really, really nice. The next part is also interesting, and that's the print services aspect. Currently, as I mentioned, all of our copiers are on a fixed monthly fee. So we've done analysis based on the 2-year data that we provided them, and it was we determined that the per-click rate is actually far more economical and advantageous than the fixed monthly rate for most of our fleet. So we will transition, when possible, from fixed monthly fee to per-click. And the per-click also includes all the consumables, supplies, and service and support. So the RFP was definitely advantageous, as it's lowering our acquisition costs over the next 6 years. And then transitioning to a hybrid model for of fixed fee and per click will result in roughly 12,000 savings and duplicating costs. So total for year one in savings with the hardware acquisition cost and duplicating savings, that's what we would be saving just in year one. And I already built out year two, school year 27-28, and we're seeing the same thing in annual savings on the duplicating costs. So for the next 6 years, our costs will actually start to come down, especially on the duplicating side as we go through each of the years. So again, these are just some of the savings, and in other areas where we've seen efficiencies, that for just year one, coupled with some of these other items, we're seeing around $190,000 in savings. But remember that we still have capital leases out there, so those savings will go to pay down those capital leases over the next few years.
Yeah, and that's why we put realized savings because of those lease payments, which we are phasing out. We have about 3 more years of phasing those out, and once we have that, then those will be captured savings in perpetuity.
Thank you, Rudy. I appreciate it. I mean, this is just an example of why we should be RFPing pretty much everything. I mean, it's just when you sit down and you look at what we're paying and you put it out in the competitive market, it certainly reinforces that you have the best contractor, which we do in this situation, but then they came back with more savings, or we find somebody else that serves our needs at the best possible cost to the least possible cost to the district. So I appreciate all the work. I know it's a lot. But any questions I saw? Kelsey.
Just one question. So I think it mentioned there were about 14 or 15 in the fleet currently. So does this include, like, is there a need for any additional, anywhere does that include any additional machines? I know it includes replacement.
No, that's a great question. No, it doesn't add any new machines to our fleet. But what it did do, they really right-sized our fleet. So in many cases, a lot of the 75 page per minute came down to a 65. And a 65 came down to a 55. So we're seeing a reduction in hardware acquisition costs because of right-sizing the fleet. And so they're the experts. They put together this proposal, and based on our data, that made sense for them to do that.
Thanks.
Yes.
And we're actually going to piggyback off that. I know the agenda item said copier
Just gonna get
RFP
some garbage in
results.
there.
But we
throwing a
figured we
surprise
would throw in
garbage
a
in
little
there?
bit of trash.
It will include RFP stuff?
It is RFP. So we just got the actually, this is a bid instead of an RFP. So a bid, it is the lowest responsible bidder. So we just wanted to give you an update in terms of what the costs are for those. We received 3 bids. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brasky to report out on the bid results.
So we put out for refuse and recycling pickup at, so we put it out, we opened our bids, we had 3 bidders provide us. Waste management, so preliminary results are these. We still have to do some review of some of the fine details before we bring that to the board on the 24th. But our preliminary results are waste management was $65,703.23. Republic Services was $71,702.68, and Lakeshore Recycling Systems was $106,300.
What's our current?
So currently, this would yield a savings of approximately $80,000 a year.
Gosh. See?
So we're paying more than the highest bidder
Correct.
by a lot.
Is there a difference in services? I mean, it seems like a pretty big,
It is, there, no, they all had the same information. This is just what their costs for rental of equipment and pickup and disposal would be. So they all bid apples to apples.
okay.
And that's why we say it's preliminary results. We are going to comb through every last piece of data. It does have, this is a year 1. We're looking at, this is a 3-year agreement. So we're looking at those percentages and making sure we have a total cost over the term of the contract before bringing it to you on March 24th.
Yeah, it's just another mind-blowing example of, when we take a peek at things, there's room for improvement. And I really appreciate all the work that your team is putting into finding ways to save money for our taxpayers and for our students in the district. So, I mean, every time you come to us, Joe, you're showing us different ways that you're saving us money, and I truly appreciate the time and effort, because we recognize how much time and effort goes into this. So, thank you very much. Yeah, other than wow, any other questions or
I'm
comments
just
on
happy you're
this
both
one?
here. I'm just happy Brent and Joe are
Yeah.
sitting in this room with us month after month,
And you guys too.
and everybody else. But, I'm happy to be where we are today, and just what a bright future that we have, knowing the capacity and the skill set that you're bringing to our district. Thank you.
All right. We are going to move on to capital project bid results.
Oops, you're taking this one. Got it.
I was going to say, it's you again.
We're capital project updates for projects we have come in. We brought before, we've worked with White and ICI to secure bids for our Churchville and Bryan roof replacements, which would be paid for out of our life safety funding, York roof replacement from our capital projects funding, and then a York low voltage intercom system that will be paid through for our capital project funding. And these bid results are expected back on March 16th. And when we get those, our plan is to bring those to the Board of Education for approval on the 24th. There was one other large project we were working on, or are working on, is the Sandburg drainage system. And I'd like to invite White, Craig, and Dave from White to come up and explain a couple things as we work through this process.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good
Hey,
seeing
hi.
you all again.
They sent you up there by yourself, Craig.
By myself for now.
Just,
They're not off the
I
hook,
saw
don't
it.
worry.
I saw it. They both looked at you. They're like, go ahead.
Yeah, they said, go ahead and dazzle them. I'm like, okay. I'm not
As
sure how that's
always.
gonna work. But no, just to re-emphasize or echo what Mr. Brasky said, there was, I think you were looking at you called them the big 3, if I remember.
Yes.
And really, the big 3 are kind of divided into 2 categories. And one of those are those that are mainstream, really allowed us to get out to bid already. And that's the roofing and the PA system, the roofing at York and the PA system for York. Pretty straightforward in terms of documentation and then reaching out to individual contractors to get proposals. And that's what we're getting back on the 24th. Then there's a second category, and that second category is requiring a little bit more due diligence. The chillers, which we're honing in on over at a couple of the schools, Bryan, Churchville, And then there's also, what you see up here, the drainage. A little bit of an science experiment for us, and we're honing in on that. Matter of fact, talking with our engineers today, we're looking at turning over some documentation to ICI for public bidding within a month. And what we're trying to do in conjunction with that is get the chillers and so forth, pre-purchasing that equipment, or actually the whole project on that same timeline. So it's a little off kilter, I think, from what you're used to in terms of a yearly maintenance projects. But the good news is we're going to be able to fix the Sandberg drainage problem, or what we know are the repairs that are needed on the lines, and at the same time do a little bit more forensic work, because the floors are going to be open. And so we can get into what we can't see right now and we can't determine. So we'll be able to take a closer look at things. That'll happen this summer, and we'll get those broken lines. I think there's 3 areas where there are broken lines, or parts of the lines that are broken, that we'll be able to fix. In conjunction with that, we'll be ordering the mechanical equipment. And I think on the 3rd slide, there was by September, we should be kind of up and running, should everything go well. And that's for the mechanical equipment. So those are really the 2 categories that we're dealing with right now. And in conjunction with that, I know Mr. Brasky is taking care of other items in the district. We had a really great meeting, a couple of weeks ago, was it?
Yes.
Just to determine what the district could take care of, as opposed to what the architects and engineers can and should take care of in terms of complexity. And so there was a nice division between that. We stand ready to assist the district in any way we can, as does our friends at ICI. Jason Wasser, right over there, the guy that's really hiding behind me, is going to be involved in doing those work, the big 3 projects, I know, along with us. And I know he's available as we are. Should any questions arise, you just need to pick somebody's brain, or just work through some complexity that might come up, because it is construction and things happen. So we're ready.
Yeah, I'll just, go ahead.
I was just going to thank you for all of that. This is a lot of work happening. I'm so pleased to see that we're starting our life safety work and understanding the separation between our capital expenditure projects and life safety responsibilities, given the debt service that was approved not too long ago by the board. A question about Sandberg drainage feels complicated to me. Is this one of those when you kind of don't know what's going on until you open up the walls, and there might be some surprises in there? And if so, do we feel like we've built in enough contingency, or I guess maybe are we in a wait and see what's there before we can come up with some sort of financial plan for the unknown?
That is an excellent question.
Thank you.
I think, if it comes to, we have built what we believe is a conservative amount of money, or we have built in a level of cushion, because we don't know exactly what work is being done. However, if it ends up being even larger than what we are over assuming, then it's most likely going to be a multi-year project anyway. So we are prepared to, if that's the case, then we would have to commit future additional capital projects funds to this. But we want to make sure that we get it right. We know that Sandberg drainage has been an issue, and we want to get it right now instead of having to go back and dig again, saying that we missed a spot. So we want to make it as extensive as we need to get it right.
And I think it's worth reminding everyone, that the area of the building that we're dealing with right now was constructed in 1949, 1950. It's 70 years old. So that piping that's underneath there is old. And you never know what you're going to get. It could be preserved like a mummy, or there could be other things, or other breaks, or potentially other breaks that you might want to get ahead of to fix that we find. So that's just part of the forensic kind of exploration that we can do. And it is disruptive to try to find this stuff, right? So that's why you want to take advantage of the contractor's work in fixing what we know is a problem, to look at other areas or other parts of the line that might be compromised in some way, shape, or form.
So I just wanted to confirm, when you talk about the big three, I know you talked about the York intercom, the York roof. Does that also include the Churchville and Bryan roofs?
Not yet, right?
So I could answer that
kind of
question.
got dropped off in the conversation. I was hoping it was-
So, yes, those two roofs are actually part of our life safety work.
Okay.
So when we refer to the big three, we're talking about the big three items that are part of our $4 million capital projects list.
So, but the Churchville and Bryan roof replacements are still on schedule?
Those two roof replacements are, yes, are
16th.
are coming on the 16th with the York roof and the
Okay.
York intercom.
Intercoms, okay.
They will
Because
just
they're on
be,
the same slide, I thought that they were like,
Yes.
okay,
they're just coming out of a different fund, and that's why we don't consider them part of the big three.
got it. And then the Sandberg drainage stuff, the May, June, pushing that, or understand why, is it still achievable over the summer?
We believe so.
Okay.
yes.
So no disruption to the kids coming back in the school year?
No, we got to get it buttoned up, so
Yep,
we all know that.
okay, all right.
And if, for some yes, let's just leave it at that. I don't want to get into details, so. Kids will be back in school.
Yes,
Like that.
thank you.
Any other questions for Craig? All right.
Yep. So this approval, so we have talked about some other projects. We have boilers that we're replacing at Edison and Jackson, and those numbers will be in on the 24th. Our egress doors, which is part of our life safety projects, we'll have those numbers in April. We talked about Sandberg's drainage in May and June, and we talked about the chillers. And those chillers currently will be for Bryan and Churchville. We'll have those numbers April, May, and we'll have the installation and purchase service numbers in there in June and July.
And just to be clear, that with those approval dates, we are still anticipating all the work to be able to be finished, with the exception of the chillers, which we'll talk about, during the summer months.
We also have in our capital we're going to do some flooring replacement in classrooms at Bryan and Emerson. And the classrooms that have been chosen to be done do have asbestos abatement needed in those spaces. And so the cost for that asbestos abatement is $102,550, with the flooring and install cost for $75,000. And our estimate is to bring those to the board for approval in April. And other items that we had brought that we are going to accomplish this summer are York cafeteria tables for $53,480. We will be replacing the Fisher cafeteria tables, and these are a wall-mounted style. That's $101,128. And we brought to you that we were going to be updating the Jefferson and Emerson bathrooms, a set of boy and girl at each school, and we'll have those numbers in March 20th. As well as on March 20th, we will have numbers for lighting and ceiling replacements at Churchville Middle School. Edison fencing is $12,130. And then we have replacement of specialized equipment and furniture at Hawthorne and Edison. It's different manufacturers, different vendors, but the total cost of that will be $79,000.
And most likely that specialized equipment will not go to the board because it does not meet the bidding threshold. These are individual components, both for some of our specialized classrooms, as well as some furniture needs.
And I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Yes, so you can see from this outline, I'm going to first start at the very bottom. Craig was talking a little bit about the chillers, how that's going to take a little bit of time, but we actually we don't want to perform this work during the summer because that's when the chillers are in most need. So taking our time and making sure that we get it right, and having it in and planning it in a way that we can conduct the replacement of these chillers when the system is not needing to be accessed, which would be during those months that were in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, temperature-wise, is advantageous. And so taking our time to make sure that we have the full scope of the work is okay in terms of replacing those chillers. We're not worried about getting those bids back as immediately as all of these other bids. You can see that all of our other work we anticipate, we will get started as soon as that final bell rings so that we can get all of this work done in time for the first day of school. At least the major components, there might be some residual work to do that's not going to interfere with normal school operations. As a result of that, you are going to see a number of approvals. I am going to ask for the ones that we are bringing forth today, the copiers, refuse, even possibly the roof and intercom bid and the boiler bid. Going to ask permission if we can put it on consent on March 24th, considering we are talking about it extensively today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of committee work, right? We have these discussions now, so our board meetings are about business and more efficient. So, so that's why we talk about it here. So, thank you, Joe. And is the York Gymnasium floors? I saw flooring on something. Is that a summer project? That's
So, actually, the York Gymnasium floors is what we're actually using operating funds to cover the cost of refinishing the gymnasium floors. They are in need of refinishing. It has been a number of years since they've been
What is the
refinished.
cycle for that? I have a question, just a question.
Best practice is every 2 years. 3 years is an acceptable level.
I didn't ask when the last time was.
Thank you.
And where's the sweet spot on that? Because those gyms are used during the summer quite extensively for summer camps.
Yes, so we've worked with Mr. Wagner to identify the ideal window of time. The south gym is going to need some additional repairs, so we're going to need to access that gym for a longer period of time. But I believe we're targeting right around the 4th of July holiday.
All right, any more questions? All right. Moving on. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Jason, really, what way to step up. All right, moving on to school fees.
I know we have a lot of meaty topics, so we're jumping right into another meaty topic. So we're going to talk about school fees. This is an annual process in which we analyze all school fees and we give recommendations to the board members for approval at an upcoming board meeting. I wanted to outline the fees that the Board of Education approves on an annual basis. We bring you the highlights today on the changes. So anything that's not being presented today doesn't have any recommended changes to it. We will bring the full comprehensive list when the board is approving the full list of school fees. So school fees does include both registration fees, and then there are other fees incorporated, course fees for certain courses, specifically at the high school, activity and athletic fees, and then there's other products such as computers and yearbooks. The first proposed fee change that we want to incorporate in collaborating with our district technology team, we've identified that currently when our incoming freshmen come to York, we essentially sell them the Chromebook at its full cost, and we charge that as a fee. We do that so that they own that Chromebook. It has all the coverage, all the warranty coverage. And at the same time, because we are selling it directly to families, we also pay sales tax to the state of Illinois for it. We took a look at that and we said during a time that a student is moving into high school, there's a lot of newness to it, and to to add a $459 charge to regular registration and other fees, it can kind of be sticker shock for a lot of families. And we felt it was more appropriate and more in line with other school districts that we spread out the cost of that Chromebook to a $100 per year cost. So we're spreading it out throughout the use of that, of their time at the high school. Because we are recommending doing this starting next year, obviously our current 9th through 11th graders have already purchased their Chromebook. So this fee would not apply to any student that has already purchased their Chromebook outright. It would be for all incoming students, so that could be some sophomores, juniors, and seniors that didn't attend York before, and then all incoming freshmen would pay that $100 instead of $459.
Yeah, I was going to
is
say,
the
should we go per
59
topic? Is that what we should do?
It might- yeah,
It might be
probably
easier.
best, yeah.
Probably. Is the $59 difference the sales tax?
The sales tax, actually, so the full charge of the Chromebook and the service, the warranty service, is $447. We actually pay $16 in sales tax, so, but we wanted to make it we didn't want a nickel and dime, so
Right,
we've kept
clean.
it consistent at that $459.
Okay.
This is starting for students coming in this coming fall.
This coming fall, correct.
And so this freshman class, the incoming freshman class goes through the 4 years with their Chromebook. Are you there yet? I read the next step then when they become seniors and are graduating.
Yeah,
Are we
so I
not
was
there
just going to
yet?
say, Joe, what happens at the end of their 4 years?
Yes, so what we are going to be recommending is that we offer a buy program, that if students upon graduation would like to keep the Chromebook, because they are paying for the use of the Chromebook during their 4 years, we would offer it at a deep discount. It would range somewhere in the range of $25 to $50 for the cost
So
to
no,
keep
no
that
more than
Chromebook.
you would have, Shiza, no more than you would have paid if you, the $450 up front.
Correct. That's our intention, is that they will
Okay.
not pay more than they have in the past for the.
And those can be really valuable, kids going off to college, to have a device with them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
At an affordable rate.
right.
So are you talking about a lease structure versus a purchase structure? Are you switching your structure?
Essentially, that's what
Okay.
we're doing, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we could have just said that, okay.
And on top of that, we would not have to then pay sales tax.
Right, because it's a lease structure. Then you collect out of the 650 graduates, or 700, whatever, you collect 600 of them back. What do we do with that then?
So all of our devices that we do collect back at other grade levels, we have the opportunity to secure pricing. Sometimes other agencies would like to purchase that equipment.
Yeah.
We can try to get the best value for it through any devices that we collect back.
Okay.
And if anything happens to the Chromebook during that time, then it would not be a charge to families to take care of it. The service part of it would be included in that $100 a year.
Correct. There is a, yes, it's included in the cost of the fee.
The repairs are included in the cost of the fee?
Yeah, there is a tech fee that we charge,
Oh,
and
in
that's
addition
for
to
the
this.
service. That's for our tech team to manage the any broken devices.
If the device is broken and it's determined to be misuse of the device, is that still covered, or we don't charge families for that?
If it's due to misuse, we do charge them
Okay,
for.
just check.
So how would that work in this scenario, right? So if my junior bought her I bought her $459 Chromebook, right? So it's mine, and I'd have to buy another $459. So now, if somebody damages recklessly their device, but has only paid $100, are we out that money?
So Traditionally, most of our damages due to misuse are not a complete destruction of the entire device. Usually it is, we have to repair a cracked screen, those types of equipment. I can have some more discussion with Rudy and make sure that as we propose this, that we're very comprehensive in explaining how those charges would apply under this lease system.
Yeah, I would have it written out
Yep.
just in case,
Yep.
so that parents are aware of what happens if I accidentally ran over my child's Chromebook and I paid $100 for it. Obviously, students still need a Chromebook, but just whatever that function is to get them to a functioning Chromebook would be nice just to protect ourselves too from,
And if the technology
Abuse.
fee that everybody pays covers that, then we're all set. But I think this is something that, because I know you have a contract, you sign it even when you buy the whole thing, that I feel like we might need to amend that contract with the student and parent to maybe reflect the new agreement. But I do think this is such a benefit for our families to not have that $460 additional fee coming at York, and also for families that are looking for an affordable device moving on to wherever they're at after York. So, yeah, I appreciate this work. This is really nice for our families.
It's a great option.
Yep, great option, agreed. All right, any other questions?
Yeah,
next.
I do like the option too. Quick question on the pricing. The $47 you said we pay over the 400, which would be the 400 we collect throughout the course of a student's career. The district is going to cover that now instead of passing that along to the parents or the families?
Correct. Essentially, we're absorbing some of the costs. We wanted to keep it a simple number, $100, without absorbing an excessive amount of cost for it. Also, thinking about what does that buyback look like, right? If every single senior bought it back, and that's where we'll bring that consideration of what is that buyback cost. So it might not be the full $47, and even if they don't buy it back, what residual value do we get by selling it to a third party?
And then, do you know if the price of Chromebooks have gone up recently? And if they do, will this kind of match the price, the increase?
We've done some analysis. It is staying, I think it went up $3. So we will monitor that every year. And if it does increase, then obviously we would bring it to the board and say it has increased this much since we last changed it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, next, and we're going to focus on a couple of departments at the high school level. The first one is our science courses. Currently, we assess a $15 fee for our science labs. And we've done some analysis in terms of what that has allowed us to do, and we see an opportunity, especially in making sure that all of our science courses are robust, and labs are the way in which we experience science. And so, in order to cover the costs of labs that we are currently doing and increase the labs we are doing to make them valuable experiences, we are recommending that this fee increase from $15 to $25.
So Joe, can you just expand a little? Because I think there's such value in this additional fee that I don't want to shortchange it. Not only has, I think that we talked about this, there's been no change in this fee for something like 7 years. This fee has been static, but what's the real life value of this, and how will it change, like, for students immediately? How does it look differently in those labs? Because I think there's such value in this.
Yeah, so I actually have some, these are examples of labs that we would be able to incorporate into some of our courses, if you'd like to hear some examples. Okay, so In our honors chemistry class, there's, I'm going to pronounce this unit wrong, the halide lab practical. Students utilize silver nitrate to identify an unknown compound's halide anion. You can tell I'm not a science major.
I mean,
Based on the color
a
of the.
musical, like, trained accountant person, money brain, talking science. This is what we all need in our lives.
Based on the color of the precipitate that forms. The only alternative to silver nitrate for this application is concentrated sulfuric acid, which is extremely dangerous. A bottle of silver nitrate costs approximately $349 plus shipping and handling. The lab also requires dilute nitric acid and 3 unknown halide solutions. And I'll just read another one that's probably a little easier for me to read. So in honors and regular biology, the planaria regeneration, students study stem cells and tissue regeneration using live planaria. Students are able to cut the planaria. Don't ask me what a planaria is, but excuse me. Cut the planaria in half and observe the impact of specialized cells like neoblasts differentiate into 40+ different tissue types to regrow the other half of the planaria. The cost of the planaria needed is approximately $362 plus shipping and handling. The shipping and handling is more costly because they are live specimens. So these are examples of labs we like to bring to the high school laboratory experiences.
Well, and I think, did I read in the menu that, in the memo, I'm hungry, that, currently we have about 3 kids in a lab group, and this would be able to cut down the number of kids in a group to 2 to offer more, like direct opportunities for our students?
Yes, thank you very much for bringing that up. 2 students to a lab really gives you an intimate experience with these types of labs, and this allows us to not only add labs, but also make order enough so that every student can partner up with just one other individual.
I was just going to say, I mean, for $10, it sounds like a no-brainer. We just spent a committee of the whole meeting talking about student engagement, right? And hands-on practical experiences and how we incorporate new or cutting-edge, in this case, laboratory experiences for our students. And so for me, it makes sense that, for a small fee, that students' opportunities will expand through their science curriculum. It's just, I'd even go a step further and see what other high schools are charging for science lab fees, because I think that would be interesting. I feel like my gut wants to tell me they're a bit higher than $25 a class, but, again, going back to just the conservativeness of our financial approach and our fiscal responsibility, but also that balance with what students need to learn and to be in a competitive learning environment. So thanks for bringing it forward. Feels like it's going to be a good solution for the science teachers and kids. And who? No pun intended.
Okay.
A flatworm. Nikki looked up what that word meant. Beth got it. So they're dissecting worms.
Wow. Looked it up or knew it right off the top of your head?
We just caused a demand and pricing increase. Just kidding. All right, sorry.
Okay, the other area I'd like to bring to the board is some FCS courses, Family and Consumer Science courses. I'm going to start with the Culinary 1 and Culinary 2. We are recommending an increase to these. Both of these courses are currently paying a $30 fee. And as we've mentioned in the past, in terms of even looking at our own food service, food prices have gone up much quicker than even the regular cost of inflation. In addition to that, well, as part of that, we we have, in order to fit within the budget, we have reduced the amount of proteins that we have been ordering. And this would restore our ability to order a full level of proteins so that our students can get that full culinary experience, because protein is a very important part of the culinary experience. And then I will shift down to more of our design area of family and consumer science. Sewing and interior design do not currently have a fee associated with them. And as you can imagine, there are costs related to the fabric and the materials needed for these design classes. So we are recommending a proposed fee of $10 to those two courses.
And I'll just ask, when was the last time these fees were increased? Just so everyone can appreciate the value that they are receiving.
I did have, did I
It's
put that in the
2020?
memo?
Oh, so
Okay,
it's six
2020.
years. Okay, all right.
Okay, and then shifting gears to our pre-K through 8, we are recommending no changes to any of the fees, keeping them at the same level as this year. I wanted to add an additional slide related to full-day kindergarten, and just kind of outline that our recommendation is to keep it at $2,700 for the year. The reason why we have this fee is a half-day kindergarten program versus an all-day kindergarten program requires a change in staffing. If you imagine, if there are 4 kindergarten classrooms in a school and they all run half-day programs, you only need 2 full-time teachers to run 4 classes of half-day kindergarten. As we've made the shift to be all-day kindergarten, then we need 1 teacher for each of those 4 classrooms, which means we need 2 additional teachers. That is the basis for which we charge a tuition charge for those who elect to do full-day kindergarten. All families have the opportunity to choose half-day kindergarten, and so given that option, that they have an option that doesn't include a fee, we are recommending that we continue with this $2,700 per year fee. This is eligible for free and reduced fees. So you can see on here, there's no cost if you are a full fee waiver student, and then at a reduced cost if you qualify for reduced fees.
So I just wanted to, with this conversation, I know that, there's been some inquiry around this, and I wanted to make sure I had the date right. So Illinois legislation was passed in 2023 that actually says that all districts have to offer a full-day kindergarten program. Oftentimes, as districts, we continue to balance mandates that are given to us that oftentimes are absent from the financial, support in order to implement those mandates. When this law passed in 2023, they said that districts had until the 27-28 school year. With that, there were many districts that also expressed some consternation regarding the financial implications of this. And so districts can also extend that for 2 years out past the 27-28 school year. We want to acknowledge that the Board of Education in Elmhurst actually was ahead of this, and that due to the response of the community and the interest of the community implemented this. There was a tuition committee that was formed to look at this, and we know that as we oftentimes look at our budget, that majority, I think the largest line item goes into personnel, and that's why Mr. Blomquist started out with that. But in addition to that, there are also are making sure that we have the materials as well as the professional learning to ensure that we're offering a robust and appropriate, developmentally appropriate program that we offer. And so with that, this is one of those areas that in looking at, oftentimes you all ask about comparatives. Within our comparatives, half of them have instituted a tuition for all-day kindergarten and have maintained that. And so with that, I think that was also something that was taken into consideration during the time in which this was reviewed. So at this time, we oftentimes, we shared this at our January, this actually exact slide during our parent night when we welcome our families. And we continue to work with families that reach out to us in terms of the various ways in which there needs to be a reduction or a total fee waiver.
Have a really quick question regarding half-day kindergarten. How many kids are actually enrolled in half-day kindergarten?
I don't know if JB has that exact number, but it's,
I'm just
yeah,
curious,
it's
like, of the percentages, majority of
very,
parents
very,
are.
very few.
Okay, and those kids are
Yeah.
going into a full-day classroom and leaving at half-day? They're just getting in those same
Yes,
classrooms?
they're in the morning.
Okay.
They're there in the AM, and then they transition out.
Home.
Yes, so those classrooms, we still run full day, and parents can have the option if they want to just leave at the end of the AM.
I mean, that's why it's so curriculum heavy in the morning. So those kids are still getting the curriculum requirements so that they're not, they don't fall behind first
That
grade.
is absolutely right, and so we actually walk our parents through that schedule. So I don't know if Ms. Kelsey, if she was able to have been to one of the all-day kindergartens, but that's one of the other benefits that we've now really spent time centralizing that. And so that's something that's ran across our district so that parents and families know that all of our kindergartens in our all-day or half-day program across all 8 of our schools are engaged in the same program, curriculum, and program that we provide.
Are we seeing any big outcome shifts for those who have gone to the half-day versus full-day kindergarten? Like, are there any drawbacks to the people who choose the half-day?
I can look into that and see if that's, if any analysis has been done on that, but as of tonight, I can't speak to that.
And then another question, of those comparable school districts, you said half are charging and half aren't. Are we similar price point as those, or do we know how much they're charging in tuition?
So, yes, I did look into that, and we are the second highest priced out of our comparables. I did reach out to the other business officials in these districts to see if there's been some conversation on their end, and they say as of right now, there are no plans to change. So we are, the other two are, I'll just say, about half the cost of our tuition.
I mean, and
The other two that
again, just because
charge.
this is a committee meeting, and I know this is where we take the time to discuss, I do think that something we should really be thinking about is if vast majority of our people, our students, children are taking, little people, are doing full-day kindergarten, I would hate for price to be a deterrent to the small minority who are not, and then to hear that we're second highest for something that vast majority of students are, taking advantage of. I know that you guys have weighed out a lot in the past in terms of personnel costs and what it takes to run a full-day kindergarten program. But I think it was something we'd want to weigh out pretty heavily, in my opinion.
Couple thoughts, and right where Nikki is, this comes to a philosophical approach for me in education. If we value full-day kindergarten, which I think we do as a district and in our community, obviously, with the number of kids, going to it, of course, then making that accessible. And it sounds like it's accessible, and we have some structures in place. But what I'm getting at is maybe right now, given our financial, where we're at and as a district, right now might be a difficult time to consider the kindergarten fee, but in the future, I'd say in about 3 years or a future board, to be able to have a discussion around whether or not this can be included as, within our operating expenses, just like every other class we offer and person we pay for to work here. That would be a future conversation. Again, I'm not saying right now, knowing our financially, we're in a good place. We just came off a very large referendum project. We have some very large demands coming our way, so I don't know that we're in that healthy financial, not healthy, sorry. I don't know that we're in the financial position to take on such a large expenditure at this time, but if our forecasting and efforts turn out to be correct, we may be in a few short years. And so I'd like to propose that we have that conversation at some point.
Just because you brought up the referendum, this was a very big consideration as part of the referendum focus groups and the implementation of all-day kindergarten at that time. And because there were a lot of things that needed to be done, creating space for this program and incorporating it into our district. And there was a lot of feedback from our community about the all-day kindergarten program because at that point it wasn't mandated, it was optional. And taxpayers wanted to make sure that we were going to be responsibly funding this program because it was something that was optional at that time. And people have different philosophies on it. So I just know, I'm sure Courtney remembers, that there was a lot of community discussion and input that went into the conversations about incorporating this into the district. So now that it is becoming a mandated, not an option anymore, but mandated for districts, it just changes the conversation quite a bit. And so kind of just moving along the continuum and continuing those conversations and what that will look like moving forward. But
And I was going to defer to your memory as well, because my memory during that time of the referendum and our decision, prior boards to us, decision to implement full-day kindergarten, I remember talking points are surrounding the fact that once it was mandated by the state, we would re-examine whether that fee structure would stay in place.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying, is that we should continue this conversation for future years to see if that is something that's sustainable by the district in the future. But I agree with Athena that right now I don't think we are in a position to absorb that. But I do think it's a conversation that we should be having moving forward.
And Dr. Campbell, did you say the state is giving 2-year extension in terms of then we cannot charge after that, correct?
No, so let me be clear,
Implementate-
2-year extension for those, for implementation of offering it. Because of the fact that certain districts are running into space, having concerns about space, as well as, there are huge financial implications with that as well. So right now, there is within the legislation, oftentimes we see there is no specificity as to how districts are going to go about funding the mandates. And so the state has definitely not provided any guidance on that. And I think that it definitely varies. And, even talking to some of my colleagues, smaller districts and those that are not as heavily reliant upon property tax are having some very challenging times ensuring that, funds are in place for this mandate.
And
Yeah.
I'll just add that, the state has had a task force about the all-day kindergarten program, and their focus for the first several years has largely been on capacity,
Yeah.
building capacity. We're very fortunate in this community that they supported a referendum that made capacity a non-issue. And so now we're kind of awaiting that next stage of some additional guidance from the state of Illinois.
well, it's a huge initial financial obligation to create more space. And then it's also an ongoing financial, uptick for staffing the program, and that's, obviously not a one-year output, but continual, so. But I just wanted to clarify that it just says that districts have to offer, not that it be free, but that they just have to offer it.
That is
so-
correct.
Okay.
So no talk about it on the state level, it being eventually phased out tuition-wise?
No, not at this time.
I think another thing to look at is the surrounding alternatives that families have. Are we comparable to them? Are we a discount compared to them?
That's a good question. I don't have the
Okay.
numbers, but I can provide them for you in the future.
And then it might be,
I'll do a flashback.
Okay, yeah.
My son, Jack, did not go to kindergarten here, right? And I went to because, I was new, I didn't understand. But he went to a private kindergarten. And that's going back, I don't want to count the years because it'll make me very sad, but it was triple this cost back then, easily. So, I'm not saying this that we shouldn't have these conversations moving forward, but I think private kindergarten is a much more expensive alternative for our families.
And that was something that we took into consideration during the, master planning process for the referendum, was looking at all of those comparable options and making sure that this was well below the, I mean, it's all different now, because that
Right.
was, several years ago, but still, a very economical
It's
option.
probably 4 to 5 times that, I think. private.
so it's a valuable offering.
Yes, one I wish that I had when my girls were in kindergarten.
Yes,
Just
exactly. Me too.
Particularly for the working,
The working
families, the
parents,
working
yeah.
parents. The half-day sometimes can be challenging.
And not having to transfer students from one, there used to be after half-day kindergarten
Like for the
options, but then, right, they'd have to be
YMCA
bused somewhere
and,
else and.
Kindercare, and you
This
get
is a
these,
much
the
more-
buses were stopping at elementary schools everywhere in our district, picking up kids from half-day, or dropping off for the afternoon care.
Yeah.
Half-day.
So for our youngest.
Brian, I'm sorry, did you have a second question?
I was just going to kind of piggyback on looking into ways to at least alleviate some of that in the future as we kind of go along that path. Especially, I thought also during the referendum when we were talking about full-day kindergarten, looking at students with higher needs maybe also being part of the discounted rates too, to make sure we get them in to the school so that we could give them the services they need, kind of thing. So something to look into.
Yes, and we do have that. You can see on that last bullet point for students that we have identified through our IEP program that they need that full-day kindergarten, that we provide that free of charge.
Okay. Done with fees?
Done with fees.
All right, let's talk procedures.
Okay, so there's been a lot of work being done behind the scenes, but we wanted to bring it into the spotlight so that you all could see what's happening in the area of monitoring and processing our P card transactions on a monthly basis. In fact, Ms. Roberts was spending a good deal of time because today was the day that the P card amount was pulled out of the bank account, so we wanted to make sure everything was reconciled. So this is fresh in our minds today. This is centered around our goal to utilize procurement procedures aligned to best practices and promote financial stewardship. And so to make it a little bit memorable, I am going to use the vowels. And so we're going to be talking about access, efficiency, irregularities, oversight, and usage. So the AEIOUs of P card procedures. And
This is that creative, musical side
This
of
is
the
the left
brain.
side of the brain,
The left
yes.
side, that that kicks in to help us make sure that it's.
This is redeeming myself for the
disclosure,
science.
Yeah.
in the agenda meeting, when I saw this, I'm like, AEIO? What word is that? What's the acronym for that? I literally was struggling because clearly my left brain does not work as well as Joe's. He's like, AEIOU. I'm like, okay.
So I'm actually going to go in reverse order on these vowels. So I'm going to, just to make it a little bit more because it flows a little bit better. So first I want to talk a little bit about usage. Part of the work that our separate auditing firm did was identify that we need a consistent process for identifying who needs a P card, how much should be on their P card, and we have a very well drawn out process where anybody who does not currently have a P card or needs a change to their P card in any sort of way has to fill out an application, has to be reviewed by their building or department administrator, and we really look at the core purpose. We still want to encourage all of our staff and all of our budget managers to go through a normal purchase order process. That is the most secure method because we submit a purchase order, we're giving a commitment to a vendor that we are good for the money as soon as you deliver us the product or the service. That is the best possible way to do it. There are some times where a P card is necessary. When students are traveling, there's those types of expenses. Conference expenses, a lot of times it is either necessary or much more appropriate to use a P card to pay for the conference expense or other expenses related to that. And so we look at what is the core purpose of what you're asking to use the P card for. We may even give them a phone call and ask them some questions. I know in some ways it's well, every other fill in the blank has a P card, and we've made a point of saying we're not doing based off of what has been done. We're basing it off of what is the need and really demonstrate what is the core intent of why you're going to need to do it other than using a purchase order system. Once that is approved, it is signed and reviewed and signed by me. I set that dollar limit to the P card, and then we order that P card, and then we get to log it into our brand new electronic system for monitoring all P card usage. So I'm happy to share that Skyward, which is our accounting software, offers a module that we can import all of our P card transactions. So we can oversee all of our credit card transactions as they are occurring, and the ones who are managing the card see it immediately and can begin reconciling it, as well as the business office can see these immediately as they are transpiring. We can review them on an ongoing basis and identify anything that might not be appropriate or might have questions surrounding it. We already had fraud protection for a great deal of time. We get alerts when something looks suspicious on behalf of BMO. BMO manages our credit cards. They alert us when they see some possible fraud, but this allows us to identify if there's fraud or if there's irregular activity. By uploading these and identifying those, we can identify those irregularities more quickly, and then we can take action. And that's where this irregularity form, the business office loves forms, so we've created an irregularity form, and we acknowledge that sometimes mistakes happen. It's okay for a mistake to happen. We're going to document it. We're going to speak with that person who has not followed our procedures, and we are going to speak with them and say, how are we going to prevent this from happening again? We actually we require a response from them on how they're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. They sign it. the business office signs it, and then we keep a log of all of these irregularities. And if the irregularities happen over and over again, we have the documentation that says this is the X time that this has happened, and then we would take more firm action, such as suspending or canceling P-card usage for an individual. I don't think I want to go back to usage. Once we approve the usage of a P-card, we have an extensive handbook that we ask all of our P-card users to read, and then they have a page at the very end of the handbook that they have to acknowledge that they have read and agree to follow all procedures listed in it. Ms. Roberts sits down with each one of them. I've gotten to hear from next door, her sitting down with everyone, from Dr. Campbell all the way down to some of our classroom teachers that have P-cards. And we outline the core elements of this is what we want to make sure that you understand to follow. That way, when we get to an irregularity and we sit down with them, we can say, remember, you agreed to this, and we're citing exactly the language in the handbook. So beyond, it's not moving at the same speed as there we go, okay. We also have a way of being very efficient with our transactions. So it used to be that we would receive the statement on the 6th of the month, and then everyone would race around and say, I have these transactions, here's all the receipts, oh, I'm missing a receipt, let me go locate that, and scramble around to get all the receipts bundled up into that statement and get it off to the business office to process after they receive the statement. This new electronic way of receiving all transactions allows us to import that several times a week. And so every single individual receives those transactions. Hopefully they already have that receipt because it just happened a day or two ago. They might have to look in their email, but if they're looking back on the last couple of days, it's a lot easier than saying, where was it 25 days ago? This allows them to upload those receipts into the electronic system so that everyone who is monitoring that's that oversight piece, everyone can see the receipt and look at every single line item and make sure that it is appropriate for school use. This also allows us, instead of statement comes, they put together the receipts, they send it over to the business office, and they might be missing a receipt. Well, we're already in that mad scramble of we're going to be processing the credit card payment very soon. Instead of waiting until that moment, we can say, oh, wait, you're still missing this receipt as those transactions continue to flow throughout the month. So we're able to then send it back to them saying, we need this receipt. So we make sure we have everything that we require of them on every single transaction. And finally, I gave you a preview when I was talking about usage. This is the access. So in order to receive access to that P-card, before we hand it to you, you do have to sit down, you have to read through that handbook, and you have to agree to follow all of that. We're also putting in a process that we expect that the handbook will go through revisions. And so once you've signed the first one, that's agreeing to the initial handbook, and then to make it less tedious once you've agreed that initial agreement, then on a yearly basis, we will say, here are the updates to the handbook, and we will have an acknowledgement every year for whatever changes have happened to the handbook that existing P-card users will still agree to. That concludes my report on P-cards.
Well, I'm going to start by once again thanking you. As part of the audit procedures that our district went through this past year, one of the findings was that we should have a more robust or a P-card procedure and policy in place for all P-card users with oversight. I'm going to AEIOU with oversight onto all spending. And this clearly checks all of those boxes. I've never seen Lisa smile so much in a presentation, just like when you said irregularities, she's like, I'm gonna find them. I feel like the structure of what's in place now is not only clear for all the users, but it is a clear procedures are in place to identify irregularities. And I think that it prevents us from being in a complicated situation again. So thank you for all the work, because I think this is good for not only the district and our taxpayers, but for all the people that have P cards, so that they know, because I always say, it's hard for people to live up to your expectations of them if they don't know what they are. And you've laid that out very clearly in these new procedures, so thank you. So we're opening it up to everybody. Everybody's smiling, we're all like,
Yeah, I think it's
"Yay."
great. I
Yeah.
just want to make one thing clear, and Joe, you've been doing this work since you came on board here at D205. I know you're presenting to the Finance Committee now on the shifts that you've made in the process with Lisa, but that this work really has been evolving and has been implemented it was implemented pretty quickly after your arrival onto, and maybe even began with Mr. Dada when Mosin was here, but so I just wanted to be clear that this work has been ongoing and has been implemented, and that even though you're reporting on it today, it has been part of our practice since early on into your tenure here. So thank you to you and Lisa.
Correct. It has been an intentional process because we wanted to make sure, similar to what we were talking about with Sandburg drainage, right? We want to get it right, and we wanted to make sure what is the capacity and the capability based off of both Ms. Roberts and I are new to the district. We wanted to make sure that we weren't doing anything that had unintended consequences. So we've incorporated a number of steps along the way. We've piloted some of these programs with not only some department staff members, but some building staff members. Overwhelmingly, their response was, this is saving me, the fact that they're saying it's saving me so much more time, and on top of that, it's producing a higher level of oversight, it's a double win. So yes, you're right, that it's been a process that was fully incorporated at the turn of the new year, but it was gradual throughout the fall months.
That does, thanks, Joe. That's really well done, and you could tell it was very purposeful and thoughtful. I like that you said it's saving people's time. I just had a question on the oversight portion. It says that you will oversee all of them at minimum. How many do you get a day? And that seems like a lot.
This past statement had 292 transactions.
And you go through them?
I go through every single.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Sometimes
So it's
multiple times if they're missing.
Saving other people time, just not you.
Yeah, I think this is such a high priority. I want to make sure that it is right, and it is my responsibility as the one in charge of finance to make sure that this is done right. And so I do take personal responsibility in making sure that this is handled appropriately.
It's impressive. Thank you.
Well, and hopefully, it's new to a lot of people, so hopefully the learning curve on the mistakes and you didn't do this will diminish over time to make it a little simpler. So maybe you'll go down from 5 reviews to maybe 2 before you sign off on it. But hopefully that'll help. So, yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah. All right. Last but not
All right.
least, another RFP.
Nothing we want to talk about at the end of a long meeting like an audit, right? And actually, I'm going to go a little bit beyond just an auditor request for proposal. But as we heard earlier, Ms. Troutman, you mentioned that we want to find every opportunity we can to capture savings through an RFP process. In this regard, this request for proposal is not necessarily about capturing savings. We want to capture the highest quality product. Auditing is very important, as much as it might be not as exciting to hear about when we receive the audit report. It is essential to make sure that our financial structures and overall health are sustained. And so with that, we have been with the same auditing firm for at least 15 years. I've looked back for that length of time. And this causes a time for us to reflect and say, we want to make sure that we want an auditing firm that's going to give us feedback that is in the efforts of continuous improvement on our internal procedures, as well as making sure that we get as comprehensive of a review and a report as possible on our financial condition. So I'm bringing to you a recommendation and actually more informing you that we have issued an RFP as of last week for a new audit services firm or the next auditing firm, whoever that may be. So we did release the RFP documents on February 26th. We are having the proposals due on March 12th. The reason why we needed to move quickly on this is because preparing for the fiscal year audit, even though our fiscal year doesn't end until June 30th, there's a number of pre-audit steps that we have to take that often start at the mid to late May. So we want to make sure that whoever the winning proposal is has time to set up the necessary staff and the necessary programs so that we can begin our pre-audit work in a timely manner. One of my stressors within this RFP is we want timely reporting of our audits. This year, we're bringing it to you later than we normally do. And that has a ripple effect. We have some reporting that we have to do because of our bonds and because of other reporting agencies that we have to share it with. So even though the audit report hasn't been finalized or hasn't been presented to you, we have already shared it with those various groups that needed it in advance. We want to make sure that we're not in a position where we have to do that again. We want the board to hear it first before other entities are hearing our final audit report. The state statute removed the possibility of extending the deadline. However, there are no penalties for going beyond the October 15th deadline. It is my goal at all times to meet that October 15th deadline, even though the majority of school districts do not regularly meet that October 15th deadline. And so we stress that within this request for proposal, that we need timely reporting over the outcomes of the previous fiscal year.
All right, any questions, comments? I appreciate you pointing out that, I know I said cost savings, but quality, right? Like that's just as important, and the ripple effects that it has on us. So I appreciate you pointing that out because it is incredibly important. But again, I'm all about trying to find the best people to give us the best quality at the best price. So what else are we going to look at, Joe? Come on.
Well, you're setting the table nicely for my next slide.
I looked ahead in the slide deck.
I know it says auditor RFP, but I just wanted to bring to your attention that we are currently working on a couple of other RFPs that we will be putting out for any interested vendors. We want to look at our security and emergency management services, so not the actual physical cameras and monitoring devices, but the actual service so that we can ensure the safety of our students and staff. And then our athletic training services, we've had a great partnership, but we are reaching the end of our agreement with them. We're doing the responsible thing of going out for an RFP so that we can make sure we're getting the best quality for the best price. I did also want to update you. One other RFP that we mentioned in the past was the HVAC RFP. After putting together some documents, which I thank Mr. Brasky for putting together, and in consultation with our legal counsel, we've determined that the best approach towards our HVAC services would be more less formal than an RFP. It would be more of an RFQ, which I'm happy to share much more about when it's not, going on 2.5 hours of a committee meeting. But this allows us to secure the lowest possible cost without formalizing who we are awarding it to. It gives us the options to use multiple vendors through an RFQ process.
Q quote? Does Q mean quote? Okay.
Qualifications or quote, yes.
Qualifications, okay. All right, any questions, comments? All right, you did it, Joe. Nicely done, nicely done. All right, upcoming meetings, March 24th, 2026, regular Board of Education meeting at 7 PM, District 205 Center, rooms 215, 16, and 17. And with that, this meeting is adjourned at 7:55 PM. Thank you, everybody.